What is a one in a million thing that happened to you that no one believes, but you swear is true? My house was hit by lightning in the morning, and someone robbed my house later that same day. All the electronics they stole were fried from the lightning strike. Oh, I love telling this story. I was dating a girl, and on our second date, she made me dinner at her apartment. Sometime during the evening, I walked around her place looking at the art she had on the wall. One print looked very familiar. She said she found it at a thrift store a few years back. It was the first decoration she bought when she moved to this state. Then it hit me why it looked familiar. My grandmother had painted it. I had been looking at the original my entire life. My grandmother was a prolific local artist, but it was the only painting she ever had made into a print. Anyway, we have been married 16 years now, and the original piece hangs in our house. I got my tiny drone caught in a tree once. It was stuck in the leaves really good. I was just getting ready to go home and find some long poles, but before I did, an owl swooped onto the tree branch, grabbed my drone, and dropped it to the ground. It was still quite light outside, so it was surprising to see him. I have been friendly with this owl for the last year. He is really sweet. He loves to buzz my head during my night walks, land in the tree just outside of arm's reach, and observe me. He has even popped up by my house while I was walking my dog. He lands in the tree right beside where we were walking. I swear they recognize faces. He had a mate last year, and sadly I found her hit by a car shortly after. He was calling out in the forest for a long time. Very sad. Happily, he seems to have finally found another one. I was completely broke after a series of unfortunate events. My boyfriend and I managed to save up first and last month's rent just in time to avoid being homeless. We were on our way to give the cash, all the money we had in the world, to our new landlord. A truck started aggressively tailgating us, honking at us, and waving at us to pull over. We were on a lonely country road. I pulled to the side to let him pass, and he kept pulling right alongside us. We were spooked, but he was persistent. When I finally fully stopped, he opened his truck door and waved my wallet with all our money at me. It had flown off the dashboard when I made a turn, and he had picked it up and chased me down. The wallet had no identification, just the cash. We would never have seen it again if he hadn't happened to be right behind us at the exact right moment, and turned out to be a very good human being. I ordered a used paperback of To the Lighthouse online and received the exact copy I had donated to the bookstore in the small town I grew up in. 15 years had passed. My name was on the inside cover, and I had some notes written lightly in pencil. In 2nd grade and in 9th grade, I won one of those guess how many candies are in the jar contests. The number both times was 146. I work construction, so oftentimes there's garbage blowing or strewn about. I was on a raised platform supervising about 10 guys when I noticed a lottery ticket on the ground. I didn't think anything of it, probably a losing ticket someone threw away. The next day I was in the same area of the build and noticed the ticket was still there. I picked it up and scanned it. Where I'm from, we have an app to check if your lottery ticket is a winner. $500. A $500 winner. I could not believe it. Years ago, I was working at a United States Postal Service distribution center, and a single piece of junk mail fell from a tray on the overhead conveyor system and landed right next to me. I picked it up to deal with it, and I was flabbergasted to see that it was addressed to my father. No one was around, and I seriously thought it was a joke. I put it back into the system, and it was delivered to our home a few days later. It had to literally be a 1 in a million chance. I saw a body in a large lake. I called it in at the shore. They came out. They never found anything and tried to say it was a hoax. It has been 25 years and still nothing has been found. It was 100% a human body, and I saw her face just beneath the water surface. She was just under the water. I took the PATH train to New York City from Hoboken a long time ago when the fare was $1 and the machine did not accept change. The train arrived and there was a guy in a panic because he only had coins. I gave him a dollar bill and he insisted I take his change. I did not really want to, but he apologized that it was only 90 cents. I laughed, but he was sincerely apologetic. The train makes about 5 stops and ends at 33rd Street. I spent the whole day in New York City and was traveling back to Hoboken. At 14th Street Station, the doors opened and a guy I did not recognize got on heading back to Hoboken. He smiled and said, "I always pay my debts," and handed me a dime. It took me a split second to realize who he was, and we had a good laugh. I was driving on a 2-lane road going about 50 miles per hour. The guy in front of me was in a car with removable roof panels. The wind blew his hat off. I caught it out of my driver's side window. He watched through his rearview mirror. We both pulled over and I gave him his hat back. My wife and I were going through our Pokemon cards one day and organizing them into a shared binder. She had so many more than me because most of mine were stolen by a bully back in elementary school. While we were looking through them, I noticed on a few of the cards something I used to do when I was younger. I left little nail imprints on the corners of my cards so I would know which were mine when I traded them. I asked my wife where she got those cards, because all of those nail imprinted cards were the ones stolen from me. She said, "Oh, some kid back in elementary school used to have a crush on me and gave me these cards." I asked what his name was. She said, "Matt, my freaking elementary school bully." My wife and I went to completely different schools on opposite sides of the same town. She moved to California, came back to New York for a week to visit her parents, and 2 days before going back to California, we randomly met at a mutual friend's house in our mid-20s. We hit it off, got married 2 years later, bought a house, and decided to combine our cards to decorate the game room. Now I have all my old Pokemon cards back. We were meant to be together, the wife and the cards. At a zoo as a teenager, I walked by an orangutan exhibit. It was open air, but there was a barrier. As I was walking by, a rock hit the ground next to me. I looked around and a doggone orangutan was grinning at me. I picked up the rock and tossed it to him. He caught it deftly and tossed it back. This turned into a game of catch for a few minutes. No one believed me when I got home. My dad called me a liar and actually grounded me for making things up. Flash forward a few years later and we went back to the zoo with my whole family. Guess who remembered me and wanted to play again? Vindication. I was at a holiday party that had door prizes. When it was time for the draw, I decided to be funny. As soon as they read the first digit of the 6 or 7 digit ticket number, I yelled, "I won," and got my laughs. Then it turned out I actually won the prize. In January of 2021, my partner and I were verbally and physically attacked by a drunk group of Amish people on a beach in Florida. That I came face to face with the serial killer Israel Keys. He tried to get into my house by pushing his way in. At the time, I thought it was some college kid out of his mind on something. I lived in South Burlington, Vermont, and the next day, Bill and Lorraine Currier went missing. I have actually only told one other person about this. I had no idea they were connected until a few years later when I saw a show about him and immediately recognized him. It was so chilling to see that same face again. I do not tell people because I do not think they would believe me. In the early 1990s, I was in Manhattan and taking one of those glass elevators that overlooks a large atrium. About 30 floors up, it stopped and the power went out. The little emergency phone did not work either. We were packed in there like, well, an elevator in Manhattan at rush hour. After half an hour, people started getting really uncomfortable. And after a full hour, people started freaking out. No one was coming by and no one could hear us shouting. Then, about 90 minutes in, 2 guys started walking in our direction and we started pounding on the glass and yelling. They walked over and when they did, I could see it was George Wendt and John Ratzenberger, who played Norm and Cliff on Cheers. At the time, the show had just aired its series finale and was one of the most popular shows on earth. They came over, pried the doors open just enough to talk to us, learned we were stuck, and got help. When we got out, we learned they were staying in that building with the whole cast for a press event related to the show ending. Minutes later, Ted Danson came out of his room to join the fun. All 3 were incredibly nice and took pictures with everyone. Out of all the people in that city, we were saved because Norm and Cliff happened to be headed to their room and spotted us.